See. Here we go. All right, we are live.
Great. All right, well, welcome everyone to our business meeting for the Conservation Advisory Council for East Greenbush. We are meeting virtually today or remotely pursuant to the New York Senate Bill 808591, released due to COVID-19, allowing for municipal meetings to be remote for the time being. And so that's why we have to do it over Zoom instead of seeing everyone in person, which I know we'd much rather do. But thanks all for coming. And I guess we can start off by doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I should have had to have a flag icon for the Zoom. We can go ahead and do that. All right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
under God,
one nation, under all, liberty and justice for all. All right, thanks. All right. So we're calling this meeting to order. The first thing we'll do is review and approve the 2022 Conservation Advisory Council meeting schedule. And so we did distribute that to the team. It is now up on the website for the Conservation Advisory Council. It did officially start on Monday because we had our joint meeting with the zoning update committee. And so today is just an extra, it's a, I guess, termed a special meeting, a business meeting, to be able to get some of our business done that we need to get through to move on throughout the year. So I guess, yeah, first thing, anybody want to make any changes to the agenda or the proposed schedule for 2022, or would somebody like to move to approve that?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Great, thanks. Oh, and I just realized we did not assign a recorder. Now that we had Abby approve, Fred second it. And we probably have that assignment on the website. I mean, on our internal pages.
Minutes. It's actually Jennifer Hickson.
Oh. All right.
But I would be willing to step in for her.
That'd be great. Thanks, Fred.
Yep.
Thanks, Fred.
No problem. All right.
I guess just capturing that we started at 6:05 and we approved the 2020 meeting schedule. Give it a moment to get caught up. You guys keep me on track. Don't let me forget to loop back to approving minutes when Jenny gets it in here. All right. So, great. So business item updates. Let's see.
Just one.
Oh, so I know. Oh.
Do I need to? Should I record who?
Oh, he did the approving
makes the motion and seconds.
I think so.
Yes.
I'm still learning the ropes of that, but yeah, you might as well capture that.
Yep.
Oh, and then maybe we all, oh, you know what? There's a motion and then there's a second, and then do we all approve? This is where we miss having.
Yeah, we haven't actually approved yet.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Well, I approve.
Aye.
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 Okay, great. It's approved then. I definitely need a dummy's guide on how to conduct these things. Okay, great.
We'll get through it.
Yeah, I have you guys to help remind me of these things. All right. So, one of the things I put down on the business items to cover. So last year we did the cliff notes or the little highlights of the reports from the other boards, agendas, and minutes. And I just wanted to throw that out to the group. Did that seem to work well? And shall we continue on with that for 2022, or are there any changes you'd like to make to that process?
I would say we continue with the system we have and the schedule through 2022.
Yep.
I've been somewhat remiss the last couple of months, but I will reform my ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last couple months have been different. 'Cause
I
we didn't
was
have a meeting.
wondering-
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the schedule works out well. I was wondering if it would make sense that instead of taking meeting time to kind of go through the general summaries and stuff, if we just kind of write it up and email it, and then if anyone has any questions, we can discuss that at the meeting. I don't, either way, just an idea to throw out there.
I was kind of thinking that too. I started a document to, hi Jenny, to kind of to capture that for December and January, because we have been a little, we haven't been able to convene and talk about those. And so I created a document for that on the agendas, or yeah, I think it's in the agendas folder. I can send that out to everyone.
Okay.
As a way to kind of capture those. And then, yeah, you're right. Maybe we just bring any highlights or questions for, like, if Anna or Adam are there at the meeting, we can have questions for them. But I like the idea of putting those in some type of just shared Google Doc until, and then only bringing up things that really seem relevant and questioning.
Sounds good. I'm gonna, if I keep muting myself, my dog is trying to join the meeting, so.
I think he likes the idea, what he's trying to say.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
All right, great. Well, how about the rest of the group? Are you okay with doing these, like, just quick summaries on a shared Google Drive, and then only bringing up questions or relevant things, so we don't have to have a go around during the actual meeting, which does take a lot of time. We can move that through.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Because sometimes it's there's nothing on our, there's nothing relevant to us that goes on in the given meeting. Why take the time to say that? Or what happens is very straightforward. In terms of mechanics, Jen, are you thinking a document that we just add to each month, so it's a running log of our reports on the various town committees and board that just accumulates?
That's a good idea. Yeah, we could always have the most current stuff up at the top.
Yep.
And,
work backwards that way, and then if we add to that document, you can easily cut and paste that into the minutes or the agenda.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I like that.
Do a page break for every month.
Could do that. Yeah,
like a good formatter.
That would keep it neat.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Okay,
All right.
Capture that.
And so I guess, if you guys can dig back to your December and January assignments and take a quick glance at the agendas and meetings that are or agendas and minutes on the town website for each of those respective boards, go ahead and put those into the Google Doc. I did start one. I'll kind of reformat it, or Adam, you're welcome to reformat it to kind of make it more, in the spirit of this running doc that will have breaks every month.
Sounds good.
All right, great. Thanks, guys. All right. How about Esri GIS? Is there anything to update with that, Adam?
Yep. So the Esri account, I did activate our Esri account. I've activated myself as the ArcGIS Pro member, and then there is an open slot for the creative member. Right now, there's not. I don't. It's not worth really setting anybody else up yet because there's nothing on there at this point. I'm currently jumping through learning a whole new process because the ArcGIS that I'm familiar with was a different. It's a different app. It's technically an older one, and they're trying to move away from the old one and into their new methodology naturally, and it comes with an interesting limitation that I found, where if we anything we want to put online that is publicly accessible, Esri deducts credits from our account for hosting maps. So it's not a lot. It's like it's like 0.25 credits or something for data hosting, but it is after a while that does add up. I learned that by uploading all of our NRI map layers to the site, and it's I'll share a link with everybody so we can all take a look at it. But right now, there's no real movement other than setting up the framework.
Okay. Well, that's great, though. That's a huge step. Is Esri pretty straightforward about how much these credits will cost? I'm thinking it probably won't be a problem. We just need to budget for it.
No, at least not that I'm aware of. I did not see any notifications or warnings that uploading the data was going to cost me credits until I did it, which is, it's possible that I overlooked it on like a side panel or a tool tip or something where they put it subtly, but it was not an overt warning about that. The account that we have, this didn't cost us anything because by signing up for the conservation account, they actually credit us with like 1,500 credits. So the 0.25 is, a negligible dent in that balance. However, eventually it will add up if we want to host a lot. And I don't know if it makes sense for us to keep the NRI layers on there when the NRI layers are already available on East Greenbush's website. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. To be determined, I think.
Okay. Well, yeah, I feel like it shouldn't be too much of a barrier. Even if it does cost a little bit to host it, I think having those layers up in an interactive format would be well worth it.
I do agree with that. I think it would be useful for other people to be able to take them and community members to be able to access the NRI layers. If we have a GIS specialist, a citizen GIS specialist that wants to pull the layers and have some fun with Esri with them, by all means, I think that would be a powerful way to share them.
Okay.
The other limitation regarding credits is that analyses performed on the data that are online and not hosted also cost credits. They do not cost credits if you are offline on your on your personal computer, your desktop app of them. So that's just a limitation we're going to have to keep in mind moving forward. Other than that, it's a slow process, but it's moving forward a little.
Okay, great. I mean, even if we, just have the base layers up there, maybe if we get the parcels too, that would be a huge step once we get to that point, and then, we can think about analyses later. And yeah.
Yep, there's a really good opportunity for creating stories. I know everybody here saw the Esri stories in the solar research that we were doing, and we have a really good opportunity to be sharing stories like, the progression of this zoning update. I think is a really cool story that we could tell. How what kind of things, how the zoning update started, what kind of things the CAC advocated for, and how that impacted the process would be a very cool story to tell. Just something to keep on the back burner.
Yeah, no, I like that idea. It's great. All right, well, thanks for that. At some point when it does get to a point where you think it'd be useful for us to be able to pop in there and see the layers, like, you know, when we start looking at projects, and it'd be helpful to see, you know, the different layers all for one parcel. Maybe you could write up some, you know, something short on just how we can get in there and access the bare minimum of that, or give us a tutorial. That might even be better. We do have that other account to play with.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good plan. I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to plan for a very short tutorial or tour rather, of the public facing side during one of our meetings. So that way anybody that does tune in or comes to watch the video will have a good idea of how to get to this information, and it's not just for the CAC.
That's great. All right. And you can start small. You can start with just us. And I mean, you know, before we make it public, and we can get in there and kind of play around and then launch it.
Sounds good.
Great. Thanks, Adam.
Yep.
All right. Next on the list, annual report. So I think, Jenny, you were going to take a oh, yeah, go ahead.
You asked us to remind you to have the minutes approved. Now that Jennifer Hickson is online, we should get that out of the way.
Thank you. I knew I'd forget that. All right.
Got
so we would also like to review. Yes. We need an approval of the meeting minutes from November 22nd meeting. And at that meeting, it was Jennifer Hickson, myself, and Victoria took the notes. So I think that Jennifer and I are the ones who approve it. Does that sound right to everyone?
I think I can vote as well, since I was still present. I do vote as well on that.
Okay. And I did get in there and just made a couple minor edits.
Yes, thank you.
But I think it all good. Yep. And so I move to approve those.
Second.
Who seconded?
Great.
Jenny did.
Okay.
And then all in favor, aye.
Hey.
I think I have to abstain since I wasn't there.
I also have to abstain.
I think so. Yeah.
But yes,
all right.
So they are approved.
Okay, motion carries.
Lovely. Great. More buzz terms. I love this. All right. Annual report. So Jenny, I know you were going to take a first stab at putting something together, and there's still time. With anything you need from us or timeline?
I'm sorry I don't have anything to present today, but how about I get you something by next Monday? Would that be?
That sounds good.
Okay.
Yep. It looks like Fred's writing that down, so it's in paper.
I am too.
What's Monday's date?
It could be bare bones. You know, yeah. If you need help finding any information, just let me know.
Is that the 31st? I can point you
to the right
step. Yes, Monday the 31st.
Great, thanks. All right. Oh, and I just wanted to let everyone, I think everyone, at least on the team, knows that we did submit stream segments within East Greenbush to nominate for assessment by the Hudson River Estuary Program. Thanks, Jenny Hickson.
Thanks, Jenny.
Getting that in.
Great to see.
Oh, thanks, Jennifer and Adam, for actually writing it. All I did was hit send.
I don't think I did much writing. I think I just did editing. So, thank you, Jennifer.
Did you?
Yeah.
I sent an update to Jennifer, but not to everybody, that the decision is going to be postponed to mid or late February.
Oh, okay. That's still coming right up.
That's fine. Yeah. And can you remind everybody what were the two segments that were nominated?
North Branch of the Mordner Kill and the Papscani Creek.
Great. Wonderful. So fingers crossed that we can have some more assessed stream segments within East Greenbush and have some excellent data to be able to make decisions with. All right. Another business item, secretary. So as Fred furiously writes down everything we say, Jack did distribute an email to the town staff asking if anybody would be interested in attending our meetings and taking notes, and has had no bites so far. So we do have the go-ahead to write up a position description and distribute that to whoever, we think would make a good secretary, or post it widely, however we decide to go about it. It sounds like it's pretty open-ended. I don't know what the details would be in terms of like salary rate and that kind of thing. But we can work that out. But I think the first step would be writing up a brief description of what it would entail, attending these meetings and some extra hours to like make the minutes legible and distribute those.
Like me to take it.
I was going to say I can work on that this weekend so that we have it in a couple days.
Oh, great! Thanks, Victoria. And yeah, keep people in mind if you know of anybody who would be interested in serving that role. You could give them a heads up that we're going to be advertising for this, and yeah, be good to have someone who already has interest and would like to sit in on our meetings anyways and get paid.
If we don't have anyone in mind, I'm sure that we could probably have it posted in a couple different places, including like the East Greenbush Facebook page, like the full town thing. I don't think we need to go to the advertiser or anything like that, but hopefully some people have someone in mind.
This may be something that has to be run by Jack as to how. There may be stipulations regarding how this advertisement is put out, or how the job description is put out. It's actually pretty likely that there's already a set route that this is going to have to go into to comply.
Excellent point.
Right.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so I think
But
once
still,
we
if
have
you
the
think of
position-
somebody who might be interested, we should at least, make them aware of what that process is.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Once we get a description, then I'll send it on to Jack and get the nitty gritty details of how we have to, what kind of policies and stuff to abide by with that. Excellent. All right. Thanks, Victoria. All right. So next topic are projects for CAC review. And so we're just going to briefly mention these. I know that that's kind of the meat of what we usually go into in our normal meetings, but just to kind of keep some things on the radar, we have, there's two that kept popping up November, December, that I asked Adam if they're still relevant, and he did say yes. So the Emmanuel Church and the Mountain View subdivision proposals are still out there, and he's, they could still be very good candidates for us to kind of run our revised checklist through and, really work on refining our process of reviewing projects. And so you guys can tell me what you think of this. I was thinking that before our February meeting that each of us could do a test run with one of these projects and with the updated checklist. And then when we come together at the February meeting, we can compare notes.
That sounds like a good plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, great.
So did you say with one of the projects or with both?
Oh. Well, I don't know how long these are going to take. That's a good question. So it could be one or it could be both of them. I have not really looked at the Mountain View one. I think it's mainly just a subdivision of a parcel, like a small, it's not like a Carver Court kind of subdivision, but it's, 2 or 3 extra homes on a parcel. So that might be, I think both of them could be worthwhile. What do you guys want to do? Like, does it seem like too much to try to tackle both? Or if you're going to have the checklist out anyways and going through this process, should we just go ahead and do both of them since it's a...
Yeah, it kind of seems to make sense to just do both of them, and then also we won't run into any issues at our actual meeting if it turns out everyone just looked at one one of them. So,
and every project's going to be different. It would be good to get a kind of a broader sense. All right, so I guess an action item for me, I'll try to round up the links for those two projects. I know that
Right,
they're on the
the
planning.
relevant documents.
Pardon?
You mean
yeah.
the relevant documents for us for each of the projects, and
Yeah.
those will go on.
I'll find those.
Okay.
But I think they're on the website, Jen. I mean, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah. If you see them there, you could go ahead and pass them into an email.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You know what? We should utilize our Google Drive. And we do have a projects to review folder, right? Yeah. Let me see if I can find this easily. Depending on what computer I'm in.
I mean, I guess in a way it was a question, like, how would you find them on the website?
It was a little tricky. Like, you have to go through the planning. I think it's the planning and zoning page. You have to go to their page, and then on the right-hand side, they have a long list of these.
So it's under departments.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We have a folder called EG, Projects to Review, for East Greenbush. And we have a Carver Court and a Best Road Solar folder in there. Yeah, so we can start. Does somebody want to do that? Start a folder for Emmanuel Court and Mountain View. And
I could do that. I'm just afraid I'm not going to find everything, but I want to know how. So
okay,
I'll do it, and then
if you get stuff, let me know, and I'll look again too.
Okay.
I'm sure Adam Yogelski can help us if we think we're missing some of the documents. I feel like were some of them emailed to us before, or maybe they were.
Yeah, I think we archived them in the folders, but I think the initial distribution was by email.
Okay, because I think some of them came through from planning board meetings is probably what it was. That we had some of the documents attached to the agendas for that.
So one thought, again, trying to think of standardizing our process, because we'll be doing this, for everything that comes our way, is creating new project subfolders in the review folder and populating those with the documents. Is that something we might want to consider adding to the job description for the secretary?
Oh, that's a good idea.
I think that would be a reasonable thing to do, and then there's a little bit more meat to the job than just taking the minutes. Yeah, file management is legit secretarial. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it'll cost a little bit more, but more time. But I think it's a reasonable. We're putting in a lot of volunteer hours on this. I think it's reasonable to have file management as a task or a duty for the secretary.
Right. And I'm also wondering if just getting the agenda out to all the powers that be at the town would be a reasonable task as well. If I got the bare bones agenda to someone, then they can format it, get the PDF. Luckily David caught that I'd gotten the date wrong on the agenda I posted, and I'm trying to do things quickly in between work days.
Yeah, I think that would be a great task. I know Jack seemed to emphasize the fact that there's a lot of these little tasks that kind of eat up our time that would be better for us spent actually focusing on the meat of what we're trying to accomplish.
So for the Emmanuel Church, I found a page with links to the site plan and something else. do we actually need to copy the documents, or can we just put the links in the folders? I mean, it just seems kind of.
I guess if there's an easy way to put, I don't know, I guess you would have to start a Google Doc and put the links in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that acceptable to everybody?
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's fine. Yeah. Great, thanks. All right. So we have a task. We all have action items for our February meeting. Wonderful. All right, into discussion topics. Let's see. Oh, the zoning committee, or the zoning update committee. Thank you all for being on that call on Monday. I know that was a long one, but it's really good to have each of the CAC members at least hearing from the get-go what the plan is for rezoning, because Jack's right, like this is going to touch into a lot of conservation topics, and a lot of the stuff that we do will help, influence some of the decisions that they make. Not everything that they have to do will involve CAC brainpower, I don't think. There's going to be a lot of details for already developed properties that we don't necessarily need to weigh in on. But I think it's wonderful that they're asking us to have a seat at the table. So from the end of the call, it sounded like, if we can have one CAC member at each zoning committee meeting, that would be extremely helpful for them. So we can either rotate, or if there's, we'll mix it up a little bit, but if there's someone who, seems to gravitate towards it more, we can have, somebody go, say, every other meeting, and then the other members rotate in that other spot. But we can work out those details as we go along. I think we'll learn more as we get deeper into it. But one question I was wondering about is, as we do offer input into the zoning committee, at least the input that they're giving us time to think about, not necessarily on the spot at the meetings, do we want one voice from the CAC? I was thinking about it with, Jackie was asking us for input on the definitions and the maps by February 11th. And we could all either individually email her, or we could, email one collective, okay, here's what the CAC is recommending. And unfortunately, we don't have a meeting in between then to really flesh out. I'm realizing this as I'm saying it, anything, but maybe at least compiling, individual responses from the CAC so that it comes together in one stream. But I'd like to throw that out to you all. Did you have any thoughts on how the CAC should be involved during this process?
So I am very excited about the zoning update. This is kind of in my planning wheelhouse, and if possible, I would like to attend as many of these meetings as I can, regardless. So I volunteer as tribute. But
Wow.
if nobody wants to do that, I would happily take that up. And act as a liaison for the CAC, and then if there's a particular area that is going to be talked about that is jumping into other expertise, I could bring that back to the group and just coordinate to bring whoever else needs to be on the call on, if that's something that folks are interested in. Regardless of what we end up deciding with the rotations, if we do a rotation schedule or just have one person, I'll still probably go because it's valuable for me and my career path. So it's up to you guys if you want to double up on the meeting or not.
Well, thank you for having our backs on this, Adam. I would definitely like to rotate in at some point, but it's no skin off my nose to double up on if you're going to be there anyway. If you're willing to be the liaison, I think that would help establish some continuity. Over the past year, you've gotten to know the rest of us well enough to have a sense of our particular areas of expertise, so I think that's a really logical role.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds great idea. Thank you, Adam. And I do like the idea of the other members still kind of rotating in, every once in a while, and I think it's totally fine to have, two CAC members at the table at any given time. You will probably be the sole one for many of the meetings, but I think it'd be good for each of us to at least try to attend, one out of every 5 meetings, so that, we're kind of bouncing around, and soaking in more of the information. And yeah, Adam, you can kind of draw us in if you can, predict that there's going to be a really intensive natural resource discussion at one of the meetings, then you can kind of put a call out to all of us and say it would be good to have more CAC voices in the room and so forth.
Sounds good. This is probably going to be one of the most valuable projects we can take on. I cannot, I can't emphasize that enough, because where the zoning, even in the stuff that doesn't, or you would think doesn't necessarily apply to the CAC, when they're talking about zoning, they're going to start getting into the messy details, like the setbacks of how far a building should be from a road in this particular zone. And, the further the building is from the road, the more room there is for green space between the building and the road. So, every little minute decision in this zoning update is going to be kind of applicable for us if we're creative. And I don't want them to be under any illusions that I'm going to be cooperative. I want to go in there and I want to fight tooth and nail for every inch of green space that we possibly can get and keep. And thank you, David, for the thumbs up. I saw that. But yeah, I want to go in there with a bias, and I want to argue with people and get us as much green space as we possibly can.
And
I love
functional
it.
green space. Yeah. I love it too. That's great. All right. Well, wonderful. Well, so I'll assume you can attend the March 7th meeting.
Yep.
And I did.
And then, but if anybody else wants to. Go ahead, Victoria.
I also just wanted to point out, I don't know if this would be helpful for anyone to look at, or Adam, probably just interesting for you, but I believe that the city of Troy just updated their zoning. And so I've been hearing some different things that have come out of that. So it might be interesting to take a look. Obviously, like, there's a big difference between Troy and East Greenbush, but I know that they we're doing some interesting updates that it might just be kind of interesting to see how, like, a brand new zoning update looks, and what they're aiming for. And since they are a neighbor of ours, what some of the things that either we could take away or would set us apart from them as well.
Okay, I'll absolutely look into that. That'll be great. Does any of you know off the top of your head if Troy has a CAC?
They do not at the moment, but I believe they put the call together. They're working on it. I could be wrong, and they could have actually started, but I believe just a few months ago they put out the notice that they were putting together a CAC.
Okay.
Great, thanks. It's always good to see our neighbors, see what else they're working on. Okay, and so as far as providing feedback, are you guys do you think it's a good idea to have kind of this one CAC voice? Like, we could, for this first update, if Adam, if you were going to be the one to send the email, we could all send our individual feedback to you, and then you provide one email and CC us from the, this is from the CAC, here's our feedback on this first set of tasks.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That makes sense.
Wonderful.
So the deadline
I think
for
that mechanism should work.
Yep, the deadline for that was the 11th, just for everybody's recollection. So.
Yep.
Thank you. Yep. And it's on the maps and definitions. I wasn't sure what definitions they were referring to. I'm guessing maybe there's a set of definitions within the current zoning laws right now.
Yeah, I think Jack and Adam kind of hit the nail on the head that that's going to be more of a question for the code enforcement officer of what exactly the legal definitions of all of these are. What exactly is an auxiliary, quote unquote, auxiliary structure? What does that entail exactly? And that is more of a code enforcement question. I'm not sure if it's extraordinarily valuable for us to consider, other than maybe definitions of types of green spaces or open spaces, or what defines a park in our eyes, or what defines an open space, or what defines agriculture. Something like that might be valuable. But there's a good chance that's already written into our, well, let me rephrase that. It's definitely already written into our code. So, if you feel like getting into the nitty gritty and the greasy part of this, you can look at our zoning code and actually look up what a definition of agriculture is, or what the definition of a farm is, and we can make adjustments to those. The previous zoning ordinance, I believe, was done in 2009, if I'm not mistaken. So the definition should be fairly updated and fairly modern, and hypothetically shouldn't need too much adjustment, if any. Hypothetically, I say.
The only one, yeah. The one thing that popped in my mind when we started talking about that is, what about the large scale energy development? Like, is that defined, or should it be defined? Maybe it's not even the appropriate place, because I know they are working on redoing the special solar law, but
Yep.
There's other energy development projects as well that were not around.
Yeah, I think that's
20 years
something
ago.
we should be defining, because what's going to happen is within each of these zones, there's going to be allotted uses, and if energy or large scale energy is one of those allotted uses that we decide is acceptable in residential area, we need to have a definition prepared for what exactly is a large scale energy facility.
Okay. Yeah, so that'd be something good for the group to think about. And I think we started to tackle that in the solar report, so we can look to that as well.
Adam,
Great. Well, thanks again, Adam.
Yep.
Adam, when do you want feedback by?
I think I could manage to scrape together everybody's completed feedback within a day or two of the deadline. So let's just say the 8th, if possible.
The 8th?
Okay.
That'll give me plenty of time and give everybody else a couple days of leeway to ignore
You know how we work.
it. I know how I work too.
All right. Okay, great. Moving on to budget and budget ideas, essentially. So we do have a budget that we need to think about utilizing to perform our CAC tasks. One thing I did throw out to Jack was possibly getting a town laptop for CAC use. And that seemed to be a no-brainer, I guess, on their part. They seem to turn that around. So we definitely can get one if the group agrees that would be a good use of it. Thank you, Adam. Adam already provided some specs on what would be useful in terms of, running ArcGIS Pro, and current and future uses. So, yeah, anyone have any opposition or approval? I don't think we have to do a formal approval or anything, but any thoughts on getting a laptop for the CAC?
I think it would be very valuable to get one.
Okay. So probably the person doing the ArcGIS work would have it at their disposal, right? And that's what it would be used for.
I think it would, yeah. Go ahead, Adam.
I was just going to say, I built my own PC, and I'm very comfortable with my computer specs that can certainly handle ArcGIS. So if I'm using ArcGIS, I will be using my own personal computer, and I would not have need for a laptop. But it would be valuable for, since it is a little bit of an intensive software, it would be valuable for somebody that doesn't necessarily have the same setup.
So I'm just wondering
Yeah,
like how it would be used.
Yeah, I know I would definitely use it in the prep for the meetings in terms of just getting the documents and things like that ready to get to the town. But I was thinking that, yeah, I could, anybody who's ready to like work on some type of GIS project, we could, pass the laptop around. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I would probably be the holder of it, but then I can transfer it to anybody who is doing work at any given moment.
Mm-hmm. And I think during meetings, the secretary could use it to, take type notes, as it happens.
Yeah.
And would also be useful, if we wanted to, if we were going to do, some sort of special event that, if we were going to do something at the Red Barn and have a PowerPoint to present to the public or something like that.
Yeah. It's a great idea.
I'm not suggesting that we need
lots of uses.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we need to acquire our own projector. I'm sure we can borrow that, but just one more use of laptop.
Right,
Sounds
great.
good.
Right, great. So I'll keep working with Jack in the town or Colleen's doing the ordering for that. All right. And, I think I'll just keep bringing it up at every week. Other ideas. I know we have passed around some ideas and think we've started a running list on our Google Drive, but I should make sure, like our kind of ideas, throwing ideas at the wall kind of thing. But anybody else thinking about other things for the CAC budget?
I don't really have anything else to add other than the things that we've discussed in the past, making sure that we have some funds for events and things like that. Obviously our subscriptions and the fees for different things and our any kinds of training.
You did definitely start a list. Jen, I'm looking at
I did
CAC budget proposal.
Yeah, under the running, what did I call it? Running list.
Yep.
Folder. There's a budget brainstorming. One thing I've been seeing emails about is the annual DEC tree sale, and I know we've kind of thought about, if we did do some type of event, that would be nice to give away seedlings. But maybe we don't have to necessarily wait till we have an event planned. Would it make sense to go ahead and purchase maybe either 50 or 100 seedlings and then just give them out somehow, like maybe just, announce that they're available at town hall this day, and then people can, it's kind of first come, first serve. Just to kind of get our feet wet and getting seedlings. Yeah.
They're bare root seedlings.
They are.
Typically, and I'm not sure that the general public necessarily knows what to do with how to handle those as opposed to a potted plant. There'd have to be some education about how to deal with that.
Essentially, you just have to work quickly, right? Like because
keep
I've done
it
this
wet
the county
and get it in the ground ASAP.
Yeah. I've been overly ambitious and ordered many seedlings from the Soil and Water Conservation District, and then ended up being busy that weekend. And, I have 50 seedlings I need to plant ASAP. So I think people would need to know that. That's totally right, that these are bare rooted and they need to be kept moist and then get in the ground as soon as possible.
If the plan is to just hope that people come to town hall and pick them up, I think there should definitely be a contingency plan for where they will go for the ones that are remaining. If I know anything about volunteers coming to pick stuff up.
Sounds like you do. Sounds like you do know something about it.
I mean, but
I like it.
One thing that we could do, I know, do you know when the cutoff is for ordering for the tree sale?
I don't. I know that it's open now. It probably just runs for a month.
Okay.
I don't know when the deadline. I think that you order it and then some time passes before you actually get
right.
the
Yeah. When it's the ground is thawed. One thing that we could try, what we could do is put out like a notice about it and have people able to like they can email the CAC email address and just put their name on a list and how many they'd like, to try and make it a little more official, as we're like, okay, we know this many people are planning on coming and picking them up. They have to do it during this window of time. And then we can figure out, realistically, okay, well, it looks like we're going to have X amount left over. What are we going to do? How do we get the word out, to get the rest?
We could start really small. I think the minimum order is either 25 or 50. We could just start with the minimum order and just, just
I
to kind
think
of test
starting
the water.
small would be a good idea. I don't have a good sense of the likely demand. I mean, the need.
And if it's overwhelming and I see wait list, we can go big the next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in terms of what's the need this fulfills. I think it would be for the small property owner who is never doesn't have room to make the minimum order to deal directly with the Saratoga Tree Nursery, but would like to have include some native or trees on their property. I think the key thing would be yeah.
I always look at their list and I wish I could order things, but I can't plant 50 more shrubs in my yard.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to take a look at that and look at the options, because I did see an announcement go through about that and see what it would take. And I can email the group and see what species we think would be a good starting point. Hey, great. We'll keep those ideas coming. Yep, there's a budget brainstorming Google Doc in there.
And there's also
we also had
a budget proposal that seems to be a little bit more filled out.
Oh, great. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I see you just commented on that. Okay. Wonderful. Maybe we need a separate folder for budget. That actually probably would make more sense. All right. At the November meeting, we did discuss some changes to the checklist. I did a revisit of it, with the newer projects in mind when we had done the best road in the covered court. So that revisited checklist is on the Google Drive, and I can send that link back out to everyone. And so that's what we were thinking we would use to go through the Emmanuel Church and the Mountain View. We talked about adding the map numbers to each section. So if somebody gets a chance to do that, you can go ahead and edit that working document in there. Or, as whoever's going through their project, whoever gets to their homework first, and you can reference whichever map you're needing to look up for that particular section.
I think I volunteered to do that and just haven't done it, but I can go back, because I'm pretty sure when I initially was doing the review of the checklist, I have a sheet where I have it all written down anyway. So
great.
You're talking about the map numbers from the NRI.
NRI, yeah, corresponding with I know in the checklist it says maps 1 through 4 for this section, but we're talking about adding to each individual item, putting which map.
The relevant map. Okay, I think that's a great idea.
Great, thanks. All right, and then the vegetation guide also came up in November. And Victoria, I know you emailed us some good starting points thinking about the vegetation guide. Do we want to, is there anything in terms of, framework? I think we decided that it would be a spreadsheet, at least to start with. and then we can make whatever products we need to from there. Timelines, files. I did make a folder in the Google Drive under special projects and assignments, where we have our solar assessment and the stream nominations in there. So I made a vegetation guides folder, and I just started a spreadsheet of resources.
Oh, okay.
That I have found useful. They're not necessarily, I think the spreadsheet that we're envisioning are probably more the actual species, plant species.
Right. That.
Yeah, but these resources might be helpful.
Okay, sounds good. I probably add to that. And I did start the spreadsheet. I don't have it on a Google, the Google sheet, whatever they call their things, but I can start bringing it over. But there's so many. So unfortunately, if anyone finds out, I did try and do some digging and asked in a couple of native plant groups, like if anyone knew of any of the databases where you could actually export the information into a spreadsheet, which would save us time. But unfortunately, I haven't had any luck with that. So I know like the bone, what is it?
Bonus set?
No, that's not it. Is it Bone Map? BONMAP.org. Like you can filter a lot in there, but I wasn't able to figure out how to export the information that we needed.
Is this
right?
Something that
and you're right. It's going to be a huge list. Oh, go ahead, Adam.
Is this something that you think like Cornell Cooperative Extension might have a database already, or might have a spreadsheet already that they could?
Well, so the thing is, like you can narrow it down to countywide instead of like region. So at least I know the stuff that I found from Cornell does more like New York statewide stuff. But maybe if we could always try contacting someone and see if they, something like that.
Maybe a good way to start is to define what categories we are aiming to fill. We talked about different height requirements like tree, shrub, maybe forb, greening versus shade. We might have some concrete categories, and then let's just aim to say like start with three plant species per category, and then it's growable. We grow it from there. And especially like for pollinators, if we have like 3 or 4 plant species that we know work well in this area, in general, good pollinator plants, there's a ton of resources out there that list all kinds of other pollinator species. And so we could, we could start with just listing those few species, but then listing all these other resources as well. And so one example I think that this would come into play is, so Carver Court is asking for our recommendations for plantings. And recently Brett emailed Adam Y to ask for the specific species, but we don't even know yet where they want to put those plantings. So, we have to they'll have to put on the map. Yeah. Is it by the wetland? Is it on the upland? Because that's going to drastically affect the species that we recommend. And if we had, 3 or 4 species for each of these scenarios that we're envisioning will be the biggest use case scenarios, I think it will be an excellent start.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That at least like right away we can have some suggestions ready to go, and then we can keep adding to it as we have time. On that topic, I just wanted to throw this out there. I don't know if anyone has any existing opinions on this, but as I was looking at things, obviously this is not native to us, but there is some different companies are marketing eco grass, which is like, I don't know if you've seen it. It's a type of grass that will pretty much fall over at a certain height. So the idea is that you're not cutting it, and it would be like a lawn replacement. just wanted to throw that out there to see what thoughts there were, and thinking about zoning, if anyone wanted to try that, if they'd run into zoning issues, because technically it's long, even though it's not upright. Do we still have issues with ticks, things like that?
That's
an excellent thing to bring up with face to the zoning committee. Yeah.
That's going to depend on exactly how the wording is of the zoning law. If it's the height of the grass or the grass height might have very different interpretations.
Right. So, just kind of,
if I wanted to convert my lawn to like a wildflower meadow, is that going to be problematic in the current? I don't know. That's a great question.
Yeah, because I know, depending on where you are, there's definitely height restrictions for your lawn, and Can we say, like, this is now a meadow? This is not a lawn.
It's not a lawn. Yeah, that's it'll be interesting digging. That'll be an interesting thing to look at in terms of what. Mm-hmm. Provision is made for vegetate your private property and something other than lawn, and there's a certain setback from the sidewalk, reduce tick risk. You gotta have lawn 15 feet from the sidewalk before you can do so. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, so things to think about.
That's great. And we can also add that as a section to our vegetation guide, low input lawns.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I think that would be very useful.
Great. Jennifer, were you going to start a document with this list of categories that you proposed that we can add onto, or how are we going to start that?
Could. I don't know if you've already, Victoria, do you already have something started with categories that you can out?
You have something going.
Yeah, so I can try and get things into the folder soon, so in the next couple of days, so everyone can see what I've got going on and things that need to be added and changed, and go from there.
Okay. Yeah, I think starting with the big 10,000 foot level would be the best approach, and then we'll funnel down once we get the categories and such ironed out. Start, as we know, as we come across, like, the obvious species for shade or in this area and that kind of thing. Yeah. Great, thanks.
Right.
All right, and another. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, just a random thing. Thinking on when we actually put out like a guide, we should probably put a note for people, like, if you want to do like a pollinator garden, like focusing on butterflies, do not put it near your bird feeders. Like, attracting birds should be different than attracting butterflies, because one will eat the other. So that might just be a little note that we want to put in there.
That's a great idea. I mean, yeah, it's just these little things that you probably don't think about until after you've already planted it and you're enjoying those beautiful butterflies, and then the birds swoop down.
A conflict of interest section.
Yeah. Yes. I'm imagining that there'll be, probably a smaller report than our solar report, but some type of write-up that goes along with the table that will have tips like that and the resources. So that's kind of where I'm seeing the parallel with our solar report, is that it was very resource thick. We just had tons of links to like all these great things that already exist out there. We don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, great.
All right. One other, I guess I put it under discussion. It's more like business item, just a FYI for everyone. Jenny Hickson and I did meet with Nancy Kupiak on a development project that she's hoping to submit to the town, I think, pretty soon. And she requested to meet with us and the February meeting seemed like a good spot. So we'll have her come and give a short presentation about her project at the next meeting. And I think she's mainly looking for feedback and looking at, trying to look at different angles of her It's more of a recreation project for town. Kind of pretty exciting.
Oh, nice.
Great.
It's spoiler alert.
And it's awesome that
it's
go ahead.
pickleball. It's pickleball.
Oh,
Ah.
I don't want to leave anybody hanging.
Which I never heard of, but apparently it's wildly popular.
I remember during the NRI work group, Nancy was always a big proponent of developers coming to, the CAC that we were dreaming of before they submit projects. And so that's totally what she's doing. She's kind of our guinea pig in a sense to come to us for ideas and such, so that when she does submit her project, it will be even that much better. All right. Okay. Wow. Okay. I know we're 10 minutes afterwards, but we did get through all the items on my list. Are there any other topics that the CAC members would like to bring up?
Would you all?
I don't want.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Go ahead, Ed. I think there's so many things that we can do. At some point, we need to, at a longer meeting than this one, we need to discuss how we're going to prioritize. I think Adam has expressed the idea that the work on the zoning regulations might be the most important, but that's something to discuss at a future meeting.
That's true.
Yep. Carry on, Adam. Sorry.
I was just going to ask, would you all hate me forever if I brought up the zoning maps for a second just to talk about those really quick?
It's on our
Go for
homework
it. Yeah,
list anyway, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Let's.
I just have a hard cutoff about 7:30.
Okay. Sounds good. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the existing zoning map, and I think one thing that I really want to point out, there are two caveats or two things I want to point out. First is we don't have any definitions of the proposed zones. We don't have any definitions. We don't have any details for each of those, what's allowed in each of those zones. All we have is we know that at the first pass they've taken the zones that we had previously and they tried to conglomerate them a lot. One of the things that they did, and I mentioned this in the meeting because it was pretty important to me, is they lumped in agricultural residential and residential open space together into one type of zone. Ooh, let me move my zoom. And they turn that into agriculture / open space. And if we're looking at all of the nice agriculture area that we got in the open space area, it got axed right down. This map actually is a little bit difficult. I'm having a bit of a hard time, but I believe this is supposed to be residential open space. ROS, yeah. Residential open space. This entire area, this is agriculture over here, and this is agriculture right here, the way it stands. In their update, this has all been axed and turned into rural / low density residential. So in their definitions, they've cut this completely out of the open space section and put it into residential, which is a recipe for disaster. And this is my first plan of attack when I want to have a conversation with them, because this is not. I'm not comfortable with this being saying residential in the title at this point, because it is a recipe for this yellow to creep over to here and then this yellow to creep over here, and it's going to be bit by bit that's going to go away. The other thing I noticed is that what was residential, just straight residential, on the bright side, got turned into their rural residential section, which is at least a win there, kind of.
That was me. Sorry.
Nice. But I think that should really be focusing our energy on delineating between agriculture and open space. So when you guys go to make comments, if you know of any agricultural operations, it might be useful to kind of, throw those my way and pinpoint them a little bit so I can kind of bolster an argument for making more of an agricultural area in East Greenbush. I know that, we have Hayes Road, we have Phillips Road. There is a little bit of agricultural things that are going on within this area that are being overlooked in their update, the way that they have split things out. So I am all ears on how we can eat away at some of this space and get more agriculture, more open space on this map, and reject the idea of rural low density as much as we possibly can. That's at least my preliminary my preliminary assessment of looking at this. This is a bit of a Trojan horse by lumping everything into rural low density is going to be an issue down the road, and we need to put up a stink about that.
So I just want to say, because I was working on with a comprehensive plan where like this map kind of came out of the work from that. There we go. So we had that. I think you raise a good point about, that it maybe there's too much wiggle room there that could lead to more development instead of the agricultural premise over on that. But one thing that we do know is that there is no sewer connection on that side. So there is, at least right now, and from my understanding, is there is very limited development opportunity out there because you'd have to run Troy water and wastewater out there. And so it kind of naturally is that rural low density with little opportunity. Like it's just not as attractive for big development to come in that way. But I think you make a good point on how do we get rid of any wiggle room that there is, especially with you pointing out that title does have residential in it. Yes, it's rural, low density, but still residential. So I just wanted to put that.
Yeah, that's really valuable to point out. One of the things that I presuming based on my experience, rural/low density residential is going to be it's going to be essentially the same exact thing as residential, except there would be a density stipulation or something along those lines,
right,
where it
right.
can only be a certain number of people per mile, which is, that's all right if the density is of an acceptable limit, but setting that threshold is
where
it gets sketchy. Yeah, it gets dicey very quickly.
Yeah. And same thing with the residential transitional and everything. So I think you make a really good point that if for some, if we can't think of a better title for that area, to make sure that those numbers really reflect what the intention is. Mm-hmm. And not just relying, especially in the other new part off of just east of 9J that is labeled the same. As we said, like that is with the steep slopes, there's only so much potential for development there. But I hear you that we shouldn't rely on the fact that it's harder to develop in these areas due to either the topography or the sewer connection, that there should be some other ways that we can really limit what is going on there to the betterment of our town in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, it's human nature to want to be cooperative and and work with everybody on this. And I of course I don't want to make like a hostile environment during the zoning, but it's also this is going to be a really good exercise for us to really draw a hard line in the sand, because every single person there wants something in this zoning map. And this is a pie that's being cut up, and we want a slice. And the representatives for industry are going to be there, and they are going to speak up, and they are going to want their slice. And we're going to have to fight just as hard, probably harder, because open space, quote unquote, doesn't pay. So when we're fighting against the potential tax dollars coming in, we're fortunate enough to have a very insightful and wise local government that's going to back up our decisions and understands the intrinsic value of open space, which is going to work in our favor here. But we're still going to have to fight for everything.
Yeah, and that might not be true for the life of this this zoning.
Exactly. This once this is in, it's in for probably 10 years. So I just wanted to really hammer down the importance of what's going on and some of the initial things that I saw when we were looking at this meeting.
Do you, at the moment, do you have any suggestions on, obviously, like you said, it will be really fine tuning what those numbers are when it comes to density, but any title change that would kind of help also cement that idea from changing the rural low density residents to something else?
I'm not sure yet. I would have to review the current zoning law and then see what numbers get thrown out right off the bat, and immediately start negotiating at the table.
Or I should say, is your other idea really just adding more of that agricultural open space, which I know you had your own concerns about that title as well. But is that really what you're also aiming for, is getting those dark green spots on the map?
That is definitely a strategy that I want to start with. If we look at just the proposed zoning, what we have is one section of green, and then maybe you would count rural low density as maybe greenish, and then the rest of it is types of development. And right. I want to fight for more of a proportion of green space. So if you have any ideas of other types of green space, I have a feeling open space is probably going to involve just recreation and conservation areas. But conservation area maybe could get split out into its own space, where this is an area that gets no development at all. Right. Something along those lines. I think that my initial recommendation is that we should be gunning for as many different reasonable green spaces as we can, and trying to pinpoint those. I don't have any problem at all with marking up a map and sending them back and saying, well, this is what I actually think it should be. So if you guys come up with
green.
if you guys come up with some good ideas, please share them for different types of green spaces, because Papscany is not the only agricultural area in the town of East Greenbush, and we want to make sure it doesn't become.
Bestberry Farm is out there, and then there's several other areas. I was wondering if this is also the place where in the zoning there could be some carrots, if you would, to kind of helping people that might want to preserve their land. Like, do we think that in this update, are there any tools that we could push for that could make it more worthwhile for people that are like, oh, I've got this farmland, I'm looking to retire. I know I can't sell it to a developer because sewer, but can I?
So these these programs do exist already. They're called conservation easements, and
Right.
they're you can't really codify that because it has to be an option for the
Right.
resident.
I just don't know if there could be targeted areas, if this would be like the toolbox that could go into. I know the town of Bethlehem, it was either last year or maybe it was 2 years ago, but they have started a similar program where it's like the town, so it's not the state or another entity, it's the town that is promoting conservation easements through I think it's their tax code and stuff, but I'm not sure if it has anything to do with zoning.
I've
know.
never heard of this happening, and I don't know the legality of it, but I wonder if there could be something very interesting that we could make happen, like create a zone called conservation or preservation or something along those lines, and have it be an opt-in zone for people to, maybe they do get a tax benefit for opting their parcel into preservation, into that zone before the zoning process is over. Get a list of parcels that have decided that they wish to be preservation only, where that means that no further development will happen on that. That would be attached to the deed. Well, maybe not to the deed. It might be attached to the zone, so it could change in the future, but it's pretty rigid, and it would stop maybe adjacent development or it would at least stop like a subdivision from happening within this area. I don't know if that's like a thing that we could make happen. And I don't know how receptive the community would be to that, but I might have a conversation with Adam about it because he might know the zoning law.
I'm gonna have some ideas, yeah.
Because I'll tell you one thing: tax relief would make a lot of people keep their land. A lot of people who cut up their land are doing it because they can't afford the taxes.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I was thinking. That it would yes, overall we want more green space, but it would also really help the citizens of East Greenbush that don't know how they're going to continue. And especially, there's a lot of land that has been in families for a couple generations.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think people would be happy if they could continue at least that memory without knowing that it's going to have to be chopped up.
Yeah, I think this is worth doing a little bit of research. I'm going to look into this a bit.
Great.
I feel like the Rensselaer Land Trust would probably have some really good insight on this and might have some good ideas to throw around.
Yep. I'll get in contact.
This is right up their alley. That they've. Pardon?
I'll get in contact with them and see what I can end up working out. Also, I know we have a 7:30 cutoff. I just wanted to point out that we also have David Turpening. Not sure if you wanted to give a space for David to speak if he wanted to.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, we can move on to public comments.
Great. David, if you want, you can come off mute and comment if you have any.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for getting all this information out, whatever. You've done a lot of good work toward the solar moratorium initiative. You did a lot of good things for Carver Court, all the nooks and crannies of what's going on there. As far as the zoning law is concerned, the new zoning law coming up, it's very important that you put as much input as possible into the creation of that law and encourage as many people that in the town of East Greenbush to, essentially broadcast that this zoning law is being revised and they should participate in it for a number of different reasons. Adam Toby checked off a lot of my boxes. I don't necessarily agree with everything he said, but I think I agree with a lot of things what he said. I do have information regarding zoning, that type of stuff that you might be interested in. I can forward on to you. It's a database. It's readily available. And it basically shows all the zoning parcels in East Greenbush in a spreadsheet format. So that's not necessarily currently up to date. So I did find some errors in it, but you might be interested in it. I think it's very important that you all read the current zoning law and also the zoning law that was the last one prior to that was 2004. That is available from the town of East Greenbush. And what I think you might see is a lot of things that go from one version of the law was in effect to another one. How things get a little bit muddled, the more it gets muddled. There are things that happen from one to the other that are kind of detrimental to the town. So I think by reading both, you might get a good education about what it all means. I do have more things to say, but what I can do is I can formulate an email and send you a lot of information that way, rather than spending your time here. But again, I think you have a very important part in this zoning law. I think you might have some weight that you think you might not have. But I think the bottom line is to get more people involved in the town of East Greenbush. Because from my experience going to meetings for the past 3 years, there was little to no interest in it. And we have a rather large population, especially of large, people that own property in the town of East Greenbush, own homes. So I think, again, get the message out. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. To one of your points about looking at the existing, the shift between the 2004 zoning law and the current zoning law and how some things shifted, it'd be helpful to me if there are some sort of Exhibit A types examples of what you're talking about.
Okay.
that you would like
To really highlight.
So
But there's one I know 7:30 is coming down the pike here, but try to make it short here. There's something before the zoning board now, which is a clarification of a zoning law, and it's effective a variance that was on a property that was given back in 2007. Now that property's been changed hands multiple times, whatever. And the new owner is trying to get a clarification on what the actual law said. It had to do with the warehousing. And there's a lawyer involved, so forth and so on. And it's the law from 2004. It's actually 1986, revised up to 2004. Basically says nothing about outside storage. So this particular parcel got a stop work order, which is a violation of the zoning ordinance. And now that's going for the zoning board, and it's been delayed a couple of times, so forth and so on. But it's something that you might want to look into just for an example of how zoning laws can be convoluted.
Right.
And
Right. Is this
historically-
the Martin Electric?
That's one of them, but the other one most currently is C&T. Can't remember what exactly the name of it is, but it's on the zoning board agenda. Last one.
Great.
And it's the one that you know where it is. It's probably where it's located is up where the old weather vane was. Up in back of there, it's an old exercise club or gymnasium or something, whatever the case may be. And the person turned it into self-storage, and they're parking recreational vehicles and other kinds of storage stuff around it. And that's a violation of zoning law.
Got it.
But that's just one example, but there's many. So, but that's just trying to say is that if you look at the law, you may see a lot of things that you might not have taken a second look at prior to that and say that might be a violation of zoning law, or how the hell did that happen? So, but it's very important that, like Adam said, you can stick your heels in the ground and hold your ground and make a good case for why they shouldn't do things, the new zoning law, and try to close up loopholes that may creep into either intentionally or unintentionally into the new one going forward. It's very important. It's not only for natural resources, it's for the quality of life of all the residents, whether it be homeowners or not, in the town of East Greenbush.
All right. Well, thank you, David.
You're
we
welcome.
do appreciate your input on this and good ideas. Spread the word, and we do need to dig into the existing zoning law as well. All right. Well, with that, I'd like to go ahead and wrap up.
You asking for a
All
motion
right.
to
Well,
adjourn?
thank you all. Oh yeah, motion to adjourn.
Yep.
Seconded.
Okay.
Great. All right. Well, thank you all for squeezing in this extra meeting. I know it's been a week of meetings, and we'll see you in February for our February monthly meeting.
Have a good night, guys.
All
Good
right.
night.
Bye, everyone.
Hey.
Cheers, everyone. Great.